So we then go to Gene Oakland, where he's interviewing David Sammartino.
This gave me a headache.
Okay. Why did it give you a headache?
It's chaos.
It is chaos.
Absolute pure chaos, but not in a good way for me.
So, I'm going to give you a bit of background on this.
Okay.
So, David Sammartino was there with his dad, Bruno.
Yes.
You've heard the name Bruno Sammartino
I
before.
have, yes.
Bruno Sammartino, even to this day, is the longest reigning WWF champion of all time. This stems from the 60s. He had 2 reigns, one in the 60s, one that went into the 70s. One of his reigns, I believe, was 9 years.
Oh, wow.
And he was in New York and in the Northeast Territories of the United States. There was a large immigrant community from various parts of Europe, because if you think about travelling over to the States by boat, which what everyone would have been doing back then, New York is the first landmass that you're going to hit on the States. So there's a big Italian community there. There's a big German community there, Irish community. So anyone who's got a bit of an ethnic background that's diverse, they'll usually find a lot of people in that area that will associate with a working class individual who's come over as a... I think Sammartino, if I'm right in thinking, was born in Italy during the war, and his family, his mum specifically, moved them to a mountainous range where the Nazis just weren't going to kind of pull people out of the crowd, and they eventually came over to the United States. He was a very small boy, and then he just got bigger and bigger and bigger, took the weights. Because even now you look at him, you can tell he's an older man, but you can tell he's a keg.
Yeah, he's got a good physique for an older man.
He had a power lifter's body, is how I describe it. He was a strong man, and that's how he kind of got involved in wrestling in the first place. He was spotted through there. He had such a big following from the Italian community in New York, Boston, all these areas. And you could even tell when we, again, jumping ahead slightly, when they come out to the ring, he is the loudest reception of the night.
Absolutely, which is amazing, I think.
So David Sammartino,
yes,
it's not even nepotism. So David Sammartino wanted to be a wrestler by all accounts. The WWF had fallen out with Bruno in general, because Bruno was of the era prior to when steroids started to really become a big thing. And Bruno didn't think that was wrestling, that was cheating, that was beneath him. But when you look at the likes of Hulk Hogan, superstar Billy Graham, who we don't see here, but he was a guy that had a match. I think he took the title off Sammartino the second time of asking. Heavy steroid user as well.
Oh, wow.
And Sammartino wanted to distance himself away from the product. He didn't like what it was becoming. WWF wanted him to be part of WrestleMania. They did everything they could to think of to get him at that show, because of how important he was to not only the company itself but the fans. They knew that would get a big reaction if they could get Bruno Sammartino on the card. He was never going to wrestle.
No.
They basically, in no uncertain terms, suggested to Bruno, well, if you don't turn up, we're not going to use your boy.
Oh, okay.
So they used the fact that it would hold back David's career.
A bit of a guilt trip type thing.
By him not turning up and doing the managerial side of it. So Bruno didn't really want to be there, but for the benefit of his son's career,
he took one.
He took one for the team. David Sammartino, he's not in bad shape himself, but he's short.
Yes.
He was never, ever in a million years going to get to anywhere near what his dad was.
Right.
And it's really quite uncomfortable to see, knowing the circumstances around it in the background.
Okay, yeah, see, I would obviously not have a clue.
No, I like to consider myself a relative historian on things. Anything that I love a documentary on wrestling. Teach me stuff I don't know.
Yeah.
So this is something that I've seen. I think it was in a Bruno documentary, or I've seen interviews where he's been asked about this in the past. And Bruno actually didn't die that too long ago. I think it was like 2017, 16. Which was a pretty good innings for a wrestler of that era, especially when you see how young some of them have passed away. And I don't really begrudge Bruno entirely here, but he walks all over David in this interview, completely takes away from him.
Sure. I think this is also why I was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know who I'm meant to be focusing on. I don't know who is the key person here. Because I obviously didn't have that background, of knowing, and so the walls go down, and I just go, I'm just not going to bother. This is too much for me.
And to give as much as I didn't really shit on David, because he didn't really have a fair crack at it, but I thought his promo, up to the point where he got completely trampled and stampeded by his dad, wasn't bad by the comparison of some of the ones that had come before it. And his dad completely overshadows him as soon as... And what's annoying was Bruno wasn't teed up. I can only assume that they knew they had such a small window to get everything in. Bruno was like, I know I need to say something, and he's going on too long. I'm going to jump in over him, but it completely steamrolled him. And I just felt bad for David. I really did.
Yeah, fair play.